All right, lesson 2, stretching parabolas. I can describe the effect a coefficient has on quadratic functions by analyzing graphs in my calculator. So make sure you have your graphing calculator with you. If not, make sure you have your Chromebook app for that graphing calculator. We want to do one additional lesson to make sure we fully appreciate what the leading coefficient in a parabola tells us about it. Plus, we will get a bit more work with completing the square, although it will be more challenging. Exercise 1. Let's understand what a really does in y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Remember, the a term is always the one that's next to x squared. It is also called the leading coefficient in standard form because it comes first. So far, we know that if a is positive, so if this is a positive number with x squared, the parabola opens upward, so it makes a smiley face. And if a is negative, it opens downward, making that frowny face. So let's see if we can deepen our understanding. So it says, using your calculator, sketch a graph of y equals x squared, y equals 2x squared, and y equals 4x squared on the axes below. Use the window indicated on the axes. Label each with its equation. So this is challenging if you're working off of the Google Doc. So if you are doing that, all I want you to do is I want you to type in all of these equations into your calculator at the same time. So when you press y equals, you should see that there's options for you to type in more than one equation. y1, y2, and y3 is where I want you to type each of these equations. Okay? If you are working on paper, then you can type one in at a time, go to second graph, and approximately plot the points where they need to be. Now, this is all approximate because there aren't grid lines on this. And also be sure if you're using your calculator to change your window settings to match what's on the graph here. You do that just by pressing the window button in your calculator. So since it's going to take me a little bit because the drawing tool on Screencastify isn't the best tool, so it's going to take me a minute. So I'm just going to have you pause the video and either type it in your calculator or sketch it on your paper copy. Okay, take a look at my graph. Now, I did not label. You should label if you're working on the hard copy, but I use colors as my label. Now, x squared is the red one. Y equals 2x squared is the green, and 4x squared is the purple. Now, if you notice, the coefficient of x squared, the a value goes from 1 to 2 to 4. It's getting bigger, but what happens to my parabolas? Also, keep in mind these should be U-shaped, okay, not as much V-shaped as they look on my doc. Okay, so as the number is increasing, so as a increases, the parabola becomes narrower. It gets skinnier, okay? So that smile gets more and more vertical almost, okay? So as A stretches and compresses, so we use those words stretch and compress. So if it's getting narrower, that means it's stretching. So I'm just gonna add that up here. So A stretches and compresses the parabola depending on whether it is greater than 1 or between 0 and 1. So if it's between 0 and 1, that means it's a fraction. Okay, a fraction that is between 0 and 1. So like 5 over 2 wouldn't count because that's bigger than 1. So this should sound familiar to the base of exponential functions. So if you remember when we worked with exponential functions, that exponential growth and decay, that 1 being greater than it or being less than it had a big effect. Okay, so it should sound familiar. All right, so exercise 2, the graph below shows the curves that are listed. Write the color that matches the correct equation. Now, these are all comparing one another. So you've got to figure out, first of all, there's some frowny face ones, so those should be negative. There's your little hint there. But if you want to use your calculator, play around, notice what's happening with the a term, the coefficient of x squared, and how that relates to what parabola we've got. Okay, so we can do the, I honestly don't think it's wise to go in order here. Let's look at the negatives first. So we have negative x squared and negative 2x squared. Okay, remember as a is getting bigger, now I'm going to ignore the negative right now. Hopefully you know the negative is either going to be the pink or the orange, okay? Or you can say purple, pink or the orange. So we've got negative x squared and negative 2. Now we know that as that number is increasing, it is getting narrower. So which one is narrower? It is the orange one. So negative 2x squared is orange. That means negative x squared must be pink. All right, pause the video and finish those up. Okay, check your work with my work. You notice the 1/2 x squared is the fractional piece. It's between 0 and 1, so it actually compresses it. So that means that it's the wide one right there. Okay, that's all we have for you for today. You can self-assess. Let me know if you have questions. Have a good rest of your day.